What up, Freediver fans? Jonathan here, and I've got Brad from Headhunter Spearfishing, and we are going to tell you everything, maybe not everything,
Not everything.
about Headhunter Spearfishing.
So a little background on Headhunter. Back in 2002, Headhunter was started by myself and Jason Norcross. We were up at University of Florida.
Okay.
And we were actually neighbors in Gainesville. And his dad had a 31-foot contender.
Okay.
And his lifelong dream was to leave the boat in the Bahamas for the summer. So he said, "Hey, I'm leaving this boat in Walker's Key."
Yeah.
It's a great dream. I'm leaving the boat in Walker's Key for the summer. We've got a slip. If you guys want to stay on the boat, you can. Now, the boat didn't have a cabin.
Okay.
So we spent 6 weeks living on the bow of a 31-foot contender.
Wow.
And that's kind of how our friendship and our,
Your bromance.
our bromance started. And they called us the Walker's Key Gypsies, and we just went around. We ran out of money for gas. We were going on other people's boats. We're camping on the front of this 31 contender.
Dang, 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
That's a long time.
And at the end of the trip, we both, growing up, had loved spearfishing and had a hard time finding other people to really go with us. It was 2001.
Right.
There wasn't a
freediving was not like mainstreamed really.
There wasn't a huge community, and to go on a trip like that where we were spearfishing every day, and people would take us on their boats to go spearfishing for them.
Right.
And we cook, clean the fish, cook the fish, clean the boat,
bartering,
drink their beer, like whatever we could do just to get by.
Nice.
And we got back and we're like, man, what can we do to keep this alive? Like, we had so much fun. We made so many great friends. So we actually started a website. Keep in mind this is pre-social media.
Okay.
We started a website called hogfishworld.com. It's a winner right there.
Yeah.
Hogfishworld.com. And it was a forum, just
Okay.
like a WordPress forum that people could go on, post pictures, show off their catch, stay in communication with each other, plan a trip, stuff like that. And we said, hey man, we need to have a logo for this. So we came up with the Headhunter logo, the hogfish,
yeah.
and we put it on a couple shirts, and we were all excited. So we were in Gainesville, so we go out to, I think it was a swamp that night. We go out and we, hey, look at these 12 shirts that we could afford to have.
Right.
We sold them in like 15 minutes.
Wow.
So then Monday we go back to the screen printer and we get 24 shirts.
Okay.
And the next week we go back and get 48. And
Okay.
keep working our way up.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, we've got a little e-commerce website and we're selling shirts and stickers. And
this is still 2001?
Still 2002-ish.
Okay.
And just having fun.
Yeah.
It was
two college kids making extra money.
Yep. It's that, and we're just stoked on the sport. We're
Right.
getting to hang out with all these people that are into spearfishing, and we're just kind of creating like a cool vibe. We're trying to find spears that we like to use, and at that point, all I used was a Hawaiian sling.
Okay.
The Larry Newbold,
old
school Spanish wells,
Yep.
mahogany sling, and the 1/4-inch 5-foot shaft. What they call a flyer over in the Bahamas. And that's all I used. No lines, no rigging, nothing. And really wanted to find a pole spear, so I ended up driving to Jacksonville and meeting with Bill, who owns Sea Stinger.
Okay.
And he had a great tip that was in a few shops around Florida. So we were the guys that got that pole spear into a lot of shops in South Florida, including Florida Freedivers back in the day.
Yep.
And I think we were making like 5 or 10%. I mean, this is a labor of love.
Right.
And as things progressed, we ended up getting our shirts into a lot of stores, some big stores.
Cool.
And at one point we were won Scuba Shop's like the largest or best-selling T-shirt according to them for almost a whole year.
Wow.
So we had all this.
But you didn't have the Headhunter name yet. It was still.
We had switched from Hogfish World to Headhunter Spearfishing, just because we couldn't really see Hogfish World going anywhere. But
fair enough.
In the beginning, it was the idea of the website.
Yeah.
When we started having some brand issues with that, we switched to Headhunter, which is actually named after that 31 contender we lived on. That was the Headhunter.
Oh, nice. The original.
The original 31 contender was the Headhunter.
Cool.
Coral heads.
Right.
Fish heads. It's just
You're hunting heads.
Hunting heads. And so we changed in 2003 we changed to Headhunter, and it's still primarily focused on apparel. And I was using other gear. I was using some Rife gear, like their guns.
Right.
They hadn't made a pole spear yet, I was using Hawaiian 3 prongs. I was using a whole bunch of different brand stuff,
Right.
and I kept finding myself going on the trip, hating it, coming home, getting the hacksaw, the grinder, all this
Right.
stuff out, and modifying everything, gluing different pole spears together. I still have this collection of, it's probably a bundle about 2 feet around
Dang.
in a garbage can of
Right.
just golf club shafts and fishing rod blanks and all
Right.
this different stuff.
Trying
Some
to
stuff
make something different.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Some stuff I had made for me, some stuff I'd take off a shelf and try and use.
Right.
Stuff I'd order online. I was laying up my own carbon fiber for pole spears. I was doing all this stuff and just couldn't really make anything, work for
Right.
a long time.
Right.
And finally, probably around 2008, I came up with a pole spear, which called the Predator back then. And that was sort of when the Predator took shape, and it was a rear section that was a fiberglass composite with a solid carbon core for stiffness and a little bit of weight. It's a 1/2 inch diameter, and then the front section was similar to like some other hybrid pole spears that were out there. It was a
Right.
3/8 carbon front.
Right.
And at the time,
Protruded carbon, right?
Protruded carbon. And at the time, I was working from about 2004 to 2013, 14. I was working on sport fishing boats. So I spent 10 years tournament fishing in the Bahamas. One of the guys I worked for 5 years owned Chub Key.
Okay.
So I spent a lot of time over there, months a year, it's just sitting in Chub. And I found it hard to swim around with a Hawaiian sling. Even though I love shooting a sling, I could pick fish off at 12, 15 feet.
Right.
If I didn't stone them, I'd have to chase after them.
Yeah.
And I had no way of tying that to something
Right.
effectively.
Right.
And it also didn't really give me a lot to, fend off sharks. So I really
Once
wanted
you
to
send that shaft down range, you've only got a little wooden
That's
stick
it.
that's about this big.
That's all you got. And so I really wanted to find something that, a pole spear that I could use. And that's when I started really modifying all that stuff. And modifying spears, custom building spears, and finally came up with the recipe for the Predator. And I would make them while I was in the Bahamas. So I'd have the raw materials. I'd have a machine shop make me 10 sets of fittings.
Wow.
And
in the Bahamas?
No, here.
Okay.
But I'd have so much downtime when I was over there.
You'd assemble them.
I'd keep all the parts in the engine room, and I'd go use a spear, and someone would say, "Hey, what's that spear?" I'm like, "Oh, I make them." Like, "Can I buy it?" So I'd sell them my spear.
There you go.
Go in the engine room, pull out some stuff. I'd make 2 or 3 more.
Right.
A couple of days would go by, someone would see us with fish. "Oh, what are you using?"
Right.
I'd see the Predator. They're like, "Oh, can I buy it?" Sell them those spears, and that's kind of how it evolved.
Okay. Similar to the T-shirt game, right? Where you'd have like a couple made, sell them, go back, and keep moving that number forward.
And the T-shirt thing was fun, right? Everyone likes to see their brand, their logo, their ideas, and someone else is wearing a shirt.
Right.
But actually making gear that you use and makes you a better diver, makes the hunting experience better, lands you better was a sort of a game changer.
Yeah.
And I've been through that. I've been spearfishing for decades now, all over the world. But the pole spear evolution for me began probably 2007, 2008, and to finally dial that gear in and start progressing that was a huge deal. And so we'd sell pole spears off the dock. We weren't even really selling them. It wasn't a business at that point.
Right.
And 5 turned into 10, turned into 20. Turned into 50, 100.
Wow.
And it's progressed through the years. We're at the point now where this year we sold 2 miles of Nomad pole spears.
Wow.
So we assembled 3-foot sections. We machined the parts.
Dang.
We painted the tubes.
Right.
We assembled everything. We kitted it all together. And there's about, I think, 22 parts that go into a standard Nomad, most of which we make, all of which we assemble.
Right.
And it's 2 miles of those so far.
That's
just over a year.
That's a lot.
Yeah, so it's changed a lot from when we were building stuff on the dock.
So you guys have a facility now, right?
We do. In around 2014, I left working on sport fishing boats, and at that point, Headhunter was in my garage. So I had workbenches in there.
Right.
I had interns in there, sanding teak. We had just come out with the Gorilla Sling. And at that time, the first generation of Gorilla Slings were an aluminum extrusion, where we had to press fit acetal bushings in the ends. We had to sand all these teak handles.
Yep.
Actually, at the time they were mahogany handles. Put everything together, mount the reel mounts, put it all in the packaging. And so we were doing all that. We're assembling pole spears. We had these big A-frame racks where
I remember those.
Glue all the pole spears together, and we'd line them up on racks.
Yeah.
And we outgrew my garage. At least my wife says we outgrew my garage.
That's fair.
And so we found a facility that was about 1,300 square feet, 1,400 square feet, and moved in there, built workbenches, and just started assembling slings, assembling pole spears, and
then kind of fast forwarding now, how big is is it the same facility, or have you guys outgrown that even? Or?
No, now we actually have about 3,000 square feet. And this year we've expanded to the point where we have our original CNC woodworking equipment back from 2015. But last year we added a CNC lathe.
Awesome.
And this year we've added a CNC mill. And I even built a computer-controlled heat shrink machine, so I can put the grips on the pole spears, lay them in this rotary device, and I actually control where the heat gun goes, so I get a perfect grip every time. So while someone's rigging the grip, the machine's actually doing the heat shrink without applying too much heat to melt it or to affect the resin. So everything's perfect on the grips. Nice. So we'll stack them all up in the machine, press a button, and it heat shrinks them all.
That's cool.
So yeah, we've got a big facility. We've got I think this summer we had 8 people working. Just all we're doing is machining parts, assembling spears.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's been a little bit of an adventure.
I would definitely say, like, as far as the Bahama gear game is concerned, you guys are by far the biggest that I know of, and we tend to carry most everything for that space.
We probably are.
Yeah.
I
don't know anybody else who would rival you. I mean,
yeah, that's. I've spent a lot of time over there. I have a lot of Bahamian friends. We know a lot of people that dive in the Bahamas, Bahamians and non-Bahamians.
Right.
And our gear's kind of been specifically tailored to that style of diving, mostly because of the access to it and the number of people that go over there.
Right. And that's what I mean, that's what you did for decades, like you said. I mean, that's really cool.
I had a lot of free time when I was working on those boats. You don't leave the boat. So if you're on the boat for 2 months, you got 4 hours to kill, 3 hours to kill. I'd swim from shore. Sometimes I'd swim 2-3 miles. And just drag fish behind me, and sometimes they'd make it back to shore.
Long gone to the days.
Sometimes they were the fish were gone by the time I got back to land. But it's really that's how we got our start, and now we have dealers all over the world. The majority still are in South Florida, but we have dealers all over the world. We have customers everywhere.
Cool.
And we've grown. Sea Stinger, that
company you originally started schlepping,
Yeah. So that company where I was making a 5% rip on some the 50 pole spears I sold that year back in the day. Bill, when he retired, he actually called me up and said, "Hey, do you have any interest in taking this over for me?" So awesome. We now own Sea Stinger.
Very cool.
So that's it's a
Sea Stinger by Headhunter now.
Sea Stinger by Headhunter.
Cool.
Just so it kind of makes sense on the website while we have 2 brands.
Yep.
So it's a similar assembly process. It's a different style of spear, so it's a little more modular.
Right.
It's a little more. They originally engineered that spear to be a light duty spear. Surprisingly, the spear itself is pretty substantial, and it's
I've got
pretty
my
robust.
biggest fish on a pole spear with a Sea Stinger. It was an 84-pound black that, I mean, I thought for sure it was going to just destroy it, and it didn't. I landed the fish. So
it's the spear itself is a very robust spear. Yeah. The tip system is very unique. It's very easy to use. It's what I consider sort of a lighter weight slip tip system. But again, he was one of the first guys. Like his shape,
detachable tip too. Like the tip all the way away from the spear. I think that was the first one that ever existed.
He was one of the first ones. The loop to loop system. Henley came up with that.
Okay. He was probably before Sea Stinger then.
I think that,
maybe right at the same time.
I think that patent was from like 1987 or something like that.
Okay.
And Bill's patent for the Sea Stinger stuff was around the same time. So it's all late 80s, early 90s. Yeah.
Cool.
It's interesting to see how that style. I mean, slip tips were around way before that.
Yeah.
But Bill with the thin entry on the slip tip, the one-sided barb.
Right.
I mean, he's been doing that for 25 years. And that was sort of the slip tip that everyone that went to Walker's Key was using when I was a kid.
Oh, 100%.
So that slip tip was sort of the basis for what we designed our tip on, but trying to make it a beefier version.
Right.
So
heavier tackle, heavier game.
Heavier tackle, more versatile in that it has a large hole cross drilled through it, so you can rig on 480 cable. You can even use heavier cable if you want. You can use coated cable if you want. We splice 1,000-pound Spectra through it. And if you're in the Bahamas in a pinch, you can crimp on mono.
Right.
You can tie on real. You can do whatever you want with it.
Yeah.
So it gives you a lot of versatility. The other thing we did, which to my knowledge were the first in pole spears, was to look at what guys were doing with slip tips on spear guns, right? Which is a kind of a graduated step down. And the concept there being that if you just have a hole in a straight cylinder, if it comes off a 1/4 inch, it still can't turn.
Right.
If it comes off a 1/2 inch, it falls off.
Right.
And by using more of a tapered shape with a ball end, it lets that tip sit securely on there. And as it starts to come off, it can start to turn.
Right.
As it starts to turn, as it's coming off that taper, it's got more and more play.
Right.
And
which allows to hold the fish skin a little bit better if it doesn't go all the way through the fish and penetrate completely. I mean,
it lets it come off.
Yeah, I've seen multiple fish shot where it didn't go all the way through the fish; it just went through the skin.
And the skin holds it, like on a grouper or cubera, the thick-skinned fish.
Yes.
Just that skin is enough to pull it off the bottom.
Right.
I think I had a 48-pound coral trout in Africa that we shot in 75 feet of water, ripping current.
Yeah.
And it was with one of the Predator prototypes.
Okay.
And ended up shooting it, and it went in the tail, and the fish fought. I had a float line with the surface fighting this thing, and I kept him off the reef.
Okay.
And when I got him up, once he got 40 feet off the bottom, he kind of gave up.
Right.
Got him up, got the fish, and looked, and it was just a slip tip under the skin.
Dang.
And that tiny little hole was enough to hold it.
That's crazy.
And having that one-sided barb lets that tip kind of go in and toggle sideways.
That's awesome.
And that was one of the downfalls I found with some of the other pole spear slip tips that were sort of the off-the-shelf tips, is they had a double flare, so they were just
making a bigger.
They were just slitting a piece of metal and pressing it and just flaring it out.
Right.
It was easy, but it didn't turn.
Yeah,
it'd come right back out.
And it's cool. I mean, these are the kind of innovations that we love seeing by Headhunter. I mean, it's been one of those things that you guys have done some awesome things, and it's really cool to have you on the channel, being able to tell all of our viewers about why they should choose Headhunter for their Bahamas or even just wide world travels for spearfishing gear. So Brad, thank you so much for coming in. We'll definitely have some more videos with you talking about gear and other kinds of cool things. If you guys did find value in this content, please be sure to leave us a thumbs up, a like, and then if you haven't already, make sure that you subscribe to our channel, and we will see you guys
Good channel.
in the next one. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys did find value in this content, please be sure to leave us a like. And if you had any questions on any of the material that we covered in this video or any other video, leave us a comment in the comment section below. And as always, you can find all of our cool products like this cool hat on this awesome fish target on our website at flfreedivers.com. We'll see you in the next one.